Hi, everyone. Welcome to another week of Crush House Cappers. I'm your host, Wayne Allyn, the man the media calls the king of Vegas sports gambling. Now, this show is for every type of sports gambler. I don't care if you're amateur, a professional, a high roller, anyone that loves the single most important part of betting, winning. Don't go anywhere, because later in the show, we're getting picks from today's guest handicapper. We're talking to the one and only Vegas sports betting handicapper and UFC guru, Dan Hamilton. Hey, Dan, great to have you on the show.
Great to be here in the war room, Wayne.
So back in the day, Dan, you and I became acquaintances because of a commercial that I did in the 1980s on sports betting. Fill me in, because I don't remember any of it. I'm in the dark here.
Well, the time was in the mid-'80s at Santa Anita Racing Sportsbook, and you probably remember that. Gary Austin's sportsbook was down the street, and he used to advertise in Tony Under My Hat. He was another guy who used to advertise. And I remember seeing you. And then, oddly, January of last year, I was flipping through the channels. I saw Newsmax, and I says, "Hey, I know that guy."
I get around.
I've seen him before. Yeah, and so I really liked the Newsmax show. It was only on for a couple months, and then you disappeared.
Well, it was it was on for 3 years, but you obviously caught it at the end. I'm the only guy in the history of TV, I think, who had a TV show. TV shows 30 years apart. I had sports gambling shows in the 1980s, 1990s, and then had a political show on a major national TV network at the age of 56. So in between, there were 30 years gap. But I did it for 3 years, and you obviously caught it at the very end of my TV run. In any case, your nickname is Dangerous Dan. Where'd you get that nickname, Dan?
Well, when I came to Vegas for the fights in 1981. I left California, and I came to Vegas, and I wanted to see the fights, and I was good at picking them. I studied all the fighters. I read all the boxing magazines. I started making plays at Santa Anita Racing, betting their boxing line. And I'm cashing 3-1 underdogs on boxing, and they're looking at me going, "Who is this guy?" And then, long story short, the general manager ended up offering me a job, and so and they put me in charge later of baseball totals and boxing. So I was the first guy to set the line on Hagler Hearns. I'll never forget it, because I made Hearns a minus 160 favorite. And everybody in the world bet on Hearns. I mean, I bet Hagler 160, Hearns plus 120. Everybody bet Hearns. And so the house was really worried. I says, "Well, can I step on the other side of the counter and place an even money bet on Hagler?" They go, "Yeah." So made a big bet on Hagler. I walked across the street to Caesar's Palace. I walked into the place. I saw the fight, and it was 8 minutes of war. It was one of the greatest fights ever, but Hagler knocked him out in the third round. And I says... And so they started calling me Dangerous Dan back then, because I put my money where my mouth was. You know, if I had an opinion, a strong opinion, I'd back it up.
Everybody loves UFC. And so you've made that segue from boxing to UFC. You make the picks for us on VegasWinners.com. Your record is incredible, Dangerous Dan. Tell us about your insights into UFC fighting.
Well, I started fighting since I was a kid. I had my first boxing match when I was 6. Like you, I had some rough goings as a kid. I had to learn how to defend myself, and got beat up a lot. Didn't like getting beat up. Didn't like getting ganged up on. So I started studying Bruce Lee's fighting techniques when I was a teenager. Muhammad Ali was my favorite fighter, so I used to box, so I patterned my boxing after him. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Then I learned all of Bruce Lee's fighting techniques. Shortly after that, I was training with Mr. Universe, John Brown, at Fullerton, and that's where I started to become dangerous, and then I moved to Vegas. So I had that edge where I trained with champions, and I know how they think. And I just, along the way, I kept on boxing, doing jiu-jitsu and judo, so I just fell in love with the sport. And when they started cage fight, I'm going, yeah, this is great. This is more like the streets.
So tell me about this weekend. This weekend, there's a big UFC fight, right? UFC Fight Night. Tell us what it's all about and who do you like?
Well, I look at the card and if you picked all favorites in the UFC, you'd win 67% of the time, but you'd still lose money. If you bet the dogs, you'd win 33% of the time, you'd still lose money. The juice gets you. And, you got 30, 40-cent lines that you have to overcome in MMA. So if you're going to win in this game, you have to know how to pick underdogs. And so, I scour the card for underdogs, and sometimes it's really slim pickings. It seems like the favorites are justified. And that's the way I see it in this card. I know there's some love for Vittori, and I can see that as a 2-to-1 underdog, but I don't think he beats Izzy. I think Izzy keeps him at the end of his jab. One of the things I look at too when I'm trying to figure this out is I wait a little bit and I wait for the proposition bets to come out. And that gives you a story as to what they're betting and what the big bettors are thinking. And for instance, it's plus 160 by decision for Izzy, but the fight is favored to go the distance. So he's a big favorite. He's a 2.5 to 1 favorite, but you can get plus 160 on a decision. So that's a prop that I look at. I like Izzy by decision.
Well, Dan, let me ask you this. Look, in football, I've had incredible success. I only brag about one sport. Football is my life, and I've studied it my whole life, and I'm great at picking the winners against the point spread my whole life. I have a team of handicappers that handle baseball and basketball for me, and they're very good. But I personally am a football handicapper, and the reason I win is I take all underdogs, and I go against the public. Whatever the public's betting, biggest game of the week, I'm on the opposite side. So I take the opposite end of whatever the people want. If I walk in a bar, 20 people are sitting at the bar, I ask them who they like, all 20 like the Dallas Cowboys, you can bet that I'm betting against the Dallas Cowboys. If all 20 like the New York Giants, then I'm betting on the Dallas Cowboys. Is that anything like the system you use in picking UFC fighters? Do you go against the public? Is the public usually wrong?
It's a little bit different because you got a point spread in football. And if you pick 55% winners, you're going to be a hero in football. If you make the same bet every time, but it's different in UFC. It's man against man. You got to pick the winner. And I listen to some of these analysts, and they say, "Well, the dog has really good value," and I'm going, "Well, if he doesn't win, he doesn't have any value at all." So I analyze the fighters, I analyze the styles, and there's a lot of factors that go into consideration. Then I make a pick. And generally, the more data I have, the more confidence I have in making a pick. So the main event the past year, I've been doing really well. At least about close to 75% on main event. Right.
All right,
Yeah.
so we have a main event coming up this weekend in the UFC. And so give us one pick. Give us something interesting for this weekend's event that we can put
We've
a little
got an
money on.
undercard, and I'm looking at a fight, Eric Anders and Darren Stewart. It's a rematch, and Eric Anders had Darren Stewart in big trouble. He had him on the ground. He was ready to knock him out, and then Herb Dean warns him about don't hit him with a knee, and he hit him with a knee, and he got disqualified. So they're running it back. I see the same outcome. He's only a $1.50 favorite, and by TKO, he's plus 210. So if you like Eric Anders like I do in this fight, he's minus 150 as a favorite, but you can get plus 210 on inside the distance. But those are kind of things I look at. I like to play some props, especially if I think they're favorable. I think I sent you one some time ago, and it was a 7-to-1 underdog for a submission, and it hit. So.
Well, so far, everything you've sent me has hit, so that's why we have you on the show. Dan is dangerous. He's good when it comes to MMA, and that's what's so great about Vegas Winners. Our website is really geared to winning, but it's also geared to winning in every sport. I don't care if it's soccer, hockey. I don't care if it's NBA, and I don't care if it's MMA. If there's money to be made, we want to show you how to win. Matter of fact, right on this show, Dan, 2 weeks ago, the Las Vegas Golden Knights were playing a game number 7 in Vegas, and I picked them to win it big, and they won it big. And so that was my first big hockey pick on the air. with our Crush House gang. And so, last question of the night.
I want to piggyback on something that you said that's really important, because you talked about having a network of guys who are experts that you get information from, and I think that's really important. That's why a tout service can be important, because I've got a lot of experience, and my opinion is probably worth something, and it may keep you off a bet, and save money is earn money essentially. So. And there's a proverb, a wise man seeks wise counselors. And so I look at the best, I've been studying who's the best M&A analysts out there, and I get a consensus of what they're believing, and sometimes they influence my opinion, or it'll increase my confidence in a pick. So, I just don't rely on my own brain. There's a lot of other brains out there that
right,
I
and
pick,
that's listen. What you just said is very important when it comes to gambling. It is a great lesson for everybody out there. In that, I remember reading Tony Robbins' book about 2 years ago about investing. It wasn't about gambling; it was about investing. But I believe they're the exact same thing. Betting on sports no different than the stock market or betting on gold or bonds or anything else. And he said the whole key to investing, when he picked the minds of the greatest investors in the world, it's not making money, it's how much money you don't lose. It's limiting your losses. So Dan made a great point. Sometimes the picks we give you and the advice we give you isn't just about winning, it's about getting you off a loser. Because if you can eliminate the big losses, you're halfway home to having a profitable night. Hey, Dan, as we say goodbye, the last thing I wanted to ask you about, a little birdie told me that you're a music man. You've had kind of a musical career as well. Not too bad on the guitar. What's the story with that?
Well, you've experienced pain like I have. You've experienced the 3 rings of marriage: the engagement ring, the wedding ring, and the suffering. And so when my marriage went in the toilet, my second marriage, looking for my third, just like you, I decided to pick up the guitar, and I taught myself how to play. And last year I was playing with a concert pianist, so I'm pretty good. Neoclassical Bach and roll. So Bach-inspired rock is what I play.
I like it. He can hit you with the guitar. He can hit you with the MMA and the UFC moves. And he can pick winners. Dangerous Dan Hamilton, my man. Dan, thanks for coming on. And make sure everybody knows where they can find Dan's picks. VegasWinners.com.
Good to be with you, Wayne.
All right, that's a wrap. Thanks for hanging out with us on Crush House Cappers. You could sign up and become a part of the Crush House gang and unlock all my picks for free only at VegasWinners.com. You heard what I said. My picks are free at VegasWinners.com. Check out more podcasts, enter to win prizes, including trips to Vegas, to join me and the Crush House gang to watch a game and break some bread. And check out all our expert picks. It's all right here on Crush House Network. Thanks to the gambling wizard, Dangerous Dan Hamilton, for dropping in. And if you like what you saw or heard, come back and tune in to Crush House Cappers every week only on the Crush House Network. Thanks for dropping in to another episode of Crush House Cappers. I'm Wayne Allyn. Winning isn't everything. It's the only thing.